Welcome back, everybody. Well, news satire is looking for a new king this morning after last night. Following 7 years of hosting Comedy Central's hit political show, The Daily Show, Trevor Noah is stepping down, leaving his comedy news desk behind. And Noah completed his tenure again last night by talking with each of the show's correspondents and also taking some time at the end of the show for an extended farewell. South African native landed the job back in 2015. Not really that well known at the time, and then, of course, taking over for a legend, the one and only Jon Stewart, who was in that chair for 16 years. As for Noah, he did win an Emmy back in 2017, adding to the show's 24 total primetime awards. Joining us now for more context on this story is Tara Schuster, former Vice President of Talent and Development at Comedy Central, also the author of the new book, Glow in the Effing Dark, Simple Practices to Heal Your Soul from Someone Who Learned the Hard Way. Tara, thank you not only for being here. I love a guest whose book makes us consult with our standards department first. Love it. Thanks. Thanks for being with us. Okay, so you used to work at the network. You understand how the place runs. You understand that show. I'm wondering what you made of their farewell. And, of course, the first question is who possibly could be next? Filling Stewart's shoes, impossible forever and ever, of course. And now Trevor Noah held the wheel for 7 years and did it well and became a household name and really found his stride. What's chapter 3 of this look like?
Yeah, I think when Trevor came to the show, he remade the show in his own world, his own vernacular, his own understanding of the media, which is what any host is going to have to do. Because in a late night show, the thing that really matters the absolute most is the point of view of the host, right? When we think of Colbert's show, when we think of a show like Jimmy Kimmel, we know how that comedian talks, what kind of jokes they make. And that's the show. We have a saying, which is, so goes the host, so goes the show. So whoever fills that chair, it's not going to be a remaking of Jon Stewart, just as Trevor was not a remaking of him. It's not going to be a remaking of Trevor. It's going to have to be a personality with a point of view that is distinctly their own.
Good point there. I remember when Letterman left his show after 30 years, and I wasn't surprised when I heard that Colbert was taking over. I was like, okay, that's another big name. People love the Colbert Report. It made sense. When Jon Stewart left, everyone was like, oh, my God, how can you replace Jon Stewart? And then when they said Trevor Noah, I was like, oh, wow, they really kind of took a different route here and went with a name and a perspective, quite frankly, that not, I think betting folks would not have gone that way at the time. What was it about, do you think, Trevor Noah, both as a comedian and, let's be honest, what he could do for the show and its ratings and the network that made him attractive and got him the gig?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because Trevor brought an entire new everything to The Daily Show. I think, he brought a younger, more international perspective. And that was a moment, really like a change in the whole industry, because up until then, a show like The Daily Show, for example, it had a Twitter account, but they didn't really use it. And it wasn't all that social media stuff was kind of below prestigious shows, and they didn't really want to engage in it. And, I think Trevor kind of saw what was coming next and made sure that the show was on every platform, that there was a podcast version of the show, that they were active on, everything you could possibly think of. And so I think that, that alone was a big shift that Trevor made. And then if you add his international perspective, that coming from South Africa, he could be an outsider to American politics. But given his sort of ivory tower at Comedy Central insider perspective, the power that he had in that chair, he had this really interesting insider-outsider view. So I think both his understanding of social media and that sort of, you couldn't get that view anywhere else. John Oliver then came on HBO, and then you had an international point of view. But Trevor was really a different take than Jon Stewart.
And it's funny, during the final taping last night, he kind of admitted, I still don't quite understand this country. And the more I learn, the less I understand, which is a really honest assessment. That's what makes it kind of refreshing. He sees it through very different eyes than those of us who were born here and raised here. So listen, in case you haven't heard, politics in America, not dull. And listen, that's the comedy lifeline of that show, the news and politics. And there's a lot going on. We have Donald Trump running again. He love him or hate him, he gets everybody's political blood pressure charged up again. Do you think where we are politically, presidential election right around the corner, does that help shape the decision of who comes next? And if you had to bet some money in Vegas on it, who would you say is next? At least maybe 2 or 3 names you would consider, besides Rob Nelson.
Yeah. I'll put you in. I don't have any influence there anymore, but I will tell them.
I'll take it.
I think that for me, as I think about the media landscape, everything has changed from 7 years ago. And what is political now is basically everything, right? I mean, 7 years ago, some of the topics that we hear debated so hotly were not political at all. And so I think actually, yes, of course, having an election coming up gives a lot of fodder, but whoever the next host is actually going to have to cover everything in a political way, because everything has become political. So I think they're really going to have to open the aperture of what a show like The Daily Show is airing. And as for who they might choose, I emailed a friend of mine, former Daily Show friend, to say, hey, can I say anything? Like, I didn't want The Daily Show to get mad at me. And they said, as long as you don't make wild speculations about what's happening at the actual Daily Show, you should be fine. So with that caveat, if it was me and I was picking today, I would probably pick Roy Wood Jr. He's hilarious if you've watched the show. He is so hardworking. You know, he comes from a stand-up background. He was actually like a morning DJ, and I had to drive all around the South to make it to his stand-up shows at night. And it's a hard job. The reason I point that out is something I think most people miss is what a grind being on a show like The Daily Show is. And then it's actually not a very sought after position, because if you think about it, you know, as I said before, as goes the host, so goes the show. Everything rests on this one person and their point of view. The whole staff rests on it. They have to do that show every single day. When you think about a show that airs once a week, right? Think about how much time they have to write that script as opposed to a daily show.
That's a great point.
When they talk about, well, will Amy Schumer do it? No, because she has movies to do and she has tons of projects, you know? So it's going to be difficult, I think, to find someone. And so I would choose Roy Wood Jr. He knows the show. He's tried and true. He's there.
And Tara,
and he's hilarious.
No, absolutely. I don't want to, 10 seconds real quick for folks, and thank you for saying that. I didn't expect you to give me a name. Plug your book real quick. For folks who are intrigued by the title alone, give us 10 seconds of what that book is about.
Yeah, it's about finding freedom and agency from emotional hurts in your life so that you can be the person you want to be, with jokes.
That may be the best 10-second book plug I've ever heard. I can tell you were in media. Tara, thank you so much. Really enjoy the conversation and your insight. Come back anytime. We'll be right back after this.